Well, say good morning to all the Toastmasters in District 8. It is morning, I hope. Yes, it is morning. I want to thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you for a couple of minutes today. I think it was about 2 months ago or 3 months ago, I got an email from Curtis, and he said, we would like to award you, Paul Pepper, with the Toastmasters International Communication and Leadership Award. Well, when I read this email, I was really honored. And I called Curtis and he said, could you come and accept the award and speak to us for a couple of minutes? And I, sure. But then when he told me the date, I realized I couldn't because I've got a family reunion this weekend. But through the magic of this disc, I'm able to say thank you. I just wish it could be in person. And when I was chatting with Curtis, I said, what do you want me to talk about? He said, well, why don't you talk a little bit about what inspired you, how you got started, and some of the highlights of your career. It had always been my dream to work in television and radio, and I have been blessed because I have had what I considered a dream job for over 40 years at KOMU. It ended 2 years ago and got on to another chapter, which we all do in our lives. But I remember the inspiration for what I was doing with Pepper and Friends started actually back in the 1950s. And if any of you are from the St. Louis area, you probably remember the Charlotte Peters show and Charlotte Peters. She had an hour daytime show on KSD TV, and then it moved to KTVI. I grew up watching that with my mom. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be neat to be able to do a television show like Charlotte? And I kept thinking about that and thinking about it throughout my childhood. And then as I grew older, I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. So there was an ad in Broadcasting Magazine, that's a trade magazine, back in 1969 for a booth announcer at KOMU TV in Columbia. And I answered that ad. I called the station and I talked to the program director, Monty Gerwit, and he said, well, you want to come do an audition? I said, yeah. Now, I was living in the St. Louis area, so I get in my car and I drive that 140 miles, 130 miles to Columbia, Missouri, and I find KOMU TV. It's out in the middle of a cow pasture on Highway 63. And I walked in there and he said, well, we'll have you do an audition of some commercials and station identification. So I did my audition. And he said, okay, we got other people we're going to talk to. We'll give you a call in a couple of weeks. Well, I remember I was driving back to my home in the St. Louis area, and all I kept doing over and over on that 2.5-hour drive were the station identifications for KOMU. This is KOMU TV, Channel 8, Columbia, Missouri. I just had to have that job. A couple of weeks went by, and no call. The beginning of the third week, I was working in radio at that time, and the receptionist said, you got a call from somebody in Columbia, Missouri. I thought, oh, that's it. And sure enough, it was a program director from KOMU. And he said, Paul, we've gone through all of our applicants, and the job is yours if you want it. What's it going to take to get you here? Now, remember, this is television. And I thought, when you're working in television, that's big money. So the wheels started turning. In 1969, $500 a week was a lot of money. I thought to myself, well, $500 or $600 a week, surely I can get that from television. So I paused and I said, well, it's going to take at least $500 or $600 a week to get me there. And there was nothing on the other end. And then I heard a big sigh. And he said, well, I guess we're going to have to look elsewhere because all we have in the budget is at $100 a week. He said, I'll take it. So I got my first job, television, $100 a week at KOMU, and it lasted for 40 years. Now, obviously, I made a little bit more than 100 there towards the end. But then in 1982, our general manager at the time, Tom Gray, just a wonderful, wonderful person, and he was so concerned about the community. He came and he said, how about if we do a local television show? And all at once that light bulb went off, Charlotte Peters. Well, Pepper and Friends started in 1982, And during that period, that really was my dream job. We had the opportunity to interview just about everybody in Central Missouri and beyond. And our favorite people were the Central Missouri folks. But we also were able to reach beyond Central Missouri with some of these folks.
Well, our guests today on Pepper and Friends need no introduction.
Pepper and Friends?
That's the name of the show, Pepper
Looks
and
like
Friends.
we're the friends here. This has got to be Pepper.
This is Dick Clark. We have Brian Jumble, Chris Wallace, and Jane Pauley.
William Shatner. This is Cloris Leachman.
Ted Knight. Willard Scott.
Ricardo Montalban.
James Brolin. Heather Locklear.
We have John Stamos.
How are you, Paul?
Richard Chamberlain.
Peter Marshall.
Tom Brokaw.
Rock Hudson and Jack Scalier.
This is Michael McKean.
Charlotte Ray.
Patty Duke Aston. Merlin Olson.
Joe Garagiola.
Brandon Carter.
Robert Urich.
Claude Aiken.
Bo Bridges.
Miss Janet Lee.
Okay, those were just a few of some of the national people we've interviewed. But you know, over the years too, everything didn't go right. We did the show live. There was no going back and repairing something if it happened. And my sidekick, Uncle James Mauser, who was there with us the entire 28 years, sometimes we fell on our face and we had to get up and start all over again, but live in front of the audience. Here's a few of those little bloopers.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, is that beautiful?
We'll be back with more Pepper.
And this is powerful and
All right. Did you sell something, Buffy, too?
Hold it. This is what happens when it's live. That all came to an end on September the 18th, 2009, and that was a very emotional day for all of us. The next chapter in my life started with KBIA Radio. We do a segment every morning at 8:50 on KBIA. It's kind of like a compressed Pepper and Friends on the radio. But we're fortunate here. We record 2 weeks of programs in one afternoon, every other Tuesday. And the other thing I'm very fortunate about is that our sidekick from Pepper and Friends, James Mauser, came along with Radio Friends, and he's the associate producer. And then a guy who directed our show, did audio with us since he was 11 years old. Really, he came out and was doing work when
13,
he was 11.
13.
That's
Hi.
13. All right, Travis McMillan. He's directing these shows for KBIA, and we record them. Even though it's a radio show, we record them with video, and you can watch them on the internet. I want to thank you so much for inviting me to come to the District 8 Toastmasters Conference, and thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for the award. Continued success with Toastmasters. So long.